Hey guys, this is Infinite Flash here. Today I'm going to be talking about the last game in round 8 that really doesn't have any impact on the standings anymore. Both of these guys are not having a great tournament. Topalov actually is probably doing the better of these two. Nakamura is having an absolute disaster of a tournament here. In last place, and well, let's see what could happen in this game. In this game, Nakamura started with e4, and quickly on the board we saw one of the more hated lines in chess these days with the Ruy Lopez Berlin variation. And in this position, we got the main line uh, endgame position after castles. Knight takes here, b4, knight d6, bishop takes. This is the famous endgame that has been talked about, and obviously Kasparov and Kramnik, Carlsen and Nand, many of these great players. I think this was featured in this is basically played by every top player these days. I think even Aronian tried to play it as black, but I mean, he's mostly an a6 player. Anyways, that's a bit of a digression. Mostly, this is so popular because it's drawing and it's very solid for black. Usually he plays this kind of setup and tries to position his king somewhere over here. And without the queens on the board, it's very difficult to get to the king in this position. In this position, white played h3, mostly designed against to push, it's designed to kind of block anything coming to the g4 square, also preferring this g4 move. Yeah, and that's pretty understandable for h3. You can also play rook d1, but there's just so many complex subtleties in this kind of position that I don't know. I've never studied the Berlin Wall. I'll be honest. I don't know much theory, but I can try to explain each of these kind of small moves that are going to be coming in this position. King e8, designed to get his king out of the center. I mean, certainly bishop d7 and b6 didn't look that bad to me. Knight c3, and now black played the really interesting move in this position, knight e7, allowing the bishop to be developed over here on f5, attacking the weird c2 pawn. And so in this position, also by the way, black is rerouting this knight over here to try to apply pressure over here, gain a little bit more control over the position. Excuse me. And in this position, white played knight e4, kind of getting a grip on the dark squares over here. I think after bishop f5, I think probably just white is playing with like rook e1 or something, and followed by c3, and is very solid. Bishop f5 is certainly possible, but Topalov chooses his own plan with knight g6. Pretty reasonable as well. Rook e1 supporting this knight as we see, h6 to prevent a knight coming to this square right over here, or even a bishop coming there. Kind of a good prophylactic move. King h2. I mean, probably designed to support g4 at some point by white. And now black took some space here with c5, getting some control over the d4 square. There's a lot of these small, patient waiting moves in these kind of Berlin endgames, and there's not much action happening until after each side has developed all their pieces. And in this position, white played c4, blocking the c5 pawn, placing the pawn on the opposite color of this bishop. Black is very solid, and white is also solid as well, but black has the bishop pair, white is the cleaner pawn structure. This is the main argument in the Berlin, I guess. Can white make use of the advantage in pawn structure, or can black make use of his bishop pair in this kind of position? And I think slowly Topalov proves that he's actually on the good side of the bishop pair here. He loves the bishops here. Bishop e6, placing the bishop, attacking the pawn. b3, defending the pawn, obviously. b6, stabilizing this pawn. I mean, all these moves look natural. g4 played by white, taking a little bit more space. You possibly want to move this knight eventually and play f4, an idea. h5, trying to open the file over here. And in this position, king g3 to get out of that. That looks pretty reasonable as well. Rook d8 by black. I mean, everything looks pretty natural to me. Knight g5, attacking this bishop. Black does not want to give up this bishop. That's his trump. The light squared bishop, because white does not have a light squared bishop, and he has all these weak squares here on the light squares that this bishop can eventually go to, as it can go there in the long run. White played bishop e2, pretty natural. Both sides are just focused on repositioning their pieces, and white traded off the rook. I mean, I think black is doing quite fine in this position. They traded a pair of rooks. Black opened the h-file. f6, trying to trade off this last pawn. He managed to do so. And white actually has these funny knights here, I guess. I don't know. I don't. Somehow black is really getting outplayed. And I looked at this carefully. I mean, I don't. The reason I'm like really hesitant to make any definitive conclusions is that white couldn't do anything in this position. Black remained solid, and now he's just going to outplay white in this position with the knights bishops, as we'll see. White played rook e1 first, and I think the idea is that you can't really take here on g5 because your rook is hanging in that position. So that's not good for black. I think he played king f8 first, getting on this pin. I think white also had these ideas of knight e6 in this kind of position. You gotta watch out for that as black as well. I don't think knight e6 is that great because you can probably play king f7, and if you have to move this knight now, as if you take here, bishop d6 picks up the knight over here. So knight e6 is probably not a good move. So he just retreated the knight over here, but it's really difficult to play this position as white. I mean, king f7, and what are you doing exactly as white? g5, I think, is just meant by, probably not f5, but I'm sure that there's something here that gives black a pretty decent position. You know, guys, I'm a bit slow today. I think I'm just missing rook h3, and now this king probably has to go back, and I'm not really sure what white does. Yeah, I mean, black can probably just gives this check, right? And after king g1, probably rook takes, and I don't know, the position is being simplified a little bit. Probably knight h3 is good, as you can probably just take here, right? Yeah, probably this position is good for black, as at the end of this line, I think, okay, since the bishop's hanging, white has to address that, so he probably just has to take here, and you might get this kind of simplification in the position, and black should probably even win this position with good technical play. Not so easy though, but he has to really play well. This is the kind of position that was just not good if you advance the g5 pawn. You're opening up this bishop diagonal over here. So that's a bit of a notice that something he has to watch for as white, I mean. Okay, so instead of g5, he played bishop c1 instead, dropping back the bishop here in this position. Black played rook g8, getting on the g-file, putting some pressure on the pawn right over here. And white is pretty much going wrong in this position. I mean, to be honest, I think white's position is really tough to play. Can't really blame white for taking the open file in this position, but I mean, black has all the moves here with bishop b7 and getting some pressure on these light squares. White doesn't have any targets in this kind of position. I mean, I'm not sure where Nakamura is even going wrong, but it certainly looks uncomfortable. And well, black played bishop b7, but the problem is this knight's kind of hanging, and if you move this knight here to defend this, probably just I wonder. Probably after this, not that one. I'm sorry about that, guys. Knight fd2. Probably just black plays knight e5 and goes knight g4 or rook here. And if you play f3 to defend this, black can break open the position with f5, and well, the position's simply collapsing. And I don't know, bishop b2 to attack this knight, hoping to live up these small tactics. Well, black can probably just smash through with this knight sacrifice, and I don't think white's going to live longer. Notice that this pin is kind of lasting forever. So I think black can play a slow move like bishop h4 or rook h4, and then take the knight out here on the square, and black would probably be definitely should be able to kind of convert this position. I'm not really exactly sure if he can win it, given that this is a symmetrical pawn structure, but black definitely is in charge here in this position. And that's obviously not very comfortable to play, knowing that you're getting, knight sacked on and you're getting into a terrible position. So that's, not a good move. You can also play this move, but I think black would just play bishop d6 check, and your king has to move back, and there's always this pin, and this is really uncomfortable. And g4 is attacked as well, so rook h4 trying to defend it. I mean, doesn't really defend it, but I mean, your bishop's kind of garbage-ish, so knight d3 attacking this bishop forces here, check, and you lose the knight. Kind of an embarrassing variation, showing the lack of coordination in white's position. In this position, Nakamura just admitted, okay, I made a mistake with rook h1, and he played rook e1, kind of keeping the position as let's say solid as possible. And after this, think Topalov just brings the rook over here, and we get a slow maneuvering game now. Knight f2, knight e5, bishop b2. All these moves look natural. Knight d3, forking those two pieces. Rook b1 is forced. Rook g8 to attack the g4 pawn. King f3, knight takes b2, and we get the two bishops versus the two knights. And I don't think this is a good position for white, frankly. And I think every GM I would lose this position every time against a person around my strength with a good technical who's good at converting these kind of positions. Black's not even up material, but two amazing bishops coming. This knight is already pinned. Rook has pressure over here. F5 is an idea. Black has serious pressure in this position, and he played bishop c8, applying pressure to the pawn right over here. There's no way to defend it other than g5, and after f5, g5 is in trouble. Knight f6 was played to at least kind of simplify the position, but rook takes g5 is played. Knight d5 to force the bishop, but bishop b7, and what kind of position is this? This is pretty much terrible for white. Both knights are just miserable, and kind of I think Melik Kachian calls them donkeys. So I like that word. They're a bit of a donkeys, and look at this silly rook right over here. It's just one of the most misplaced rooks I've seen in recent times. This rook belongs over here or here, not on b2. B2 it does nothing. So he brought it back in the game. But black plays rook g4. I mean, every move is pretty much having a threat over here. I mean, rook d4 is especially strong, I guess. Rook h1, bishop d6, further improving the position. Not much to say, really. I mean, white's struggling to get anything. Black's position is super solid because of these bishops, and it's also super strong since d5 is always hanging. And I mean, knight e3 is probably met by f4 or some kind of advance, and black is making progress. Well, white's definitely struggling in this kind of position. And in this position, he had to give up the pawn. I guess this is one critical moment. Could he play knight e3? Not really sure. Probably because of, I think I just realized why knight e3 is not a good move, because of bishop h1. So I think white would have played that, but the only problem is I think he realized that that's hanging. So kind of embarrassing for me because I'm missing those moves. Rook h7 to kind of activate this rook, but it doesn't really activate the rook. Rook d7, and black took the pawn here. And I think here's one key moment really in the game that Topalov could have improved on. In this position, he should just play b5, controlling this square, preventing the knight from ever getting here, and hoping for the salvation in the rook endgame. This position's completely lost as black's barging through with the c pawn, and white has no say in the matter of how he defends against that. That would have been winning for black, actually. He just took the pawn here, and after knight c5, at least white gets into a rook endgame. Still, albeit lost rook endgame after these moves. This position is very, very comfortable for black. An extra pawn. White has no play whatsoever. He played a4 trying to open up the file, but black has the central past d pawn, and with the king approaching over here, in combined threats with pushing the d pawn and the rook activating itself, probably getting on, I don't know, somehow getting to h2 or c2 somehow eventually. Black should win. He played rook e5, king d3, king d3. Black brought the king over here. I mean, if you kept the king over here, maybe king f3, right? Probably. I'm not really sure. I wonder. I mean, black always has this idea of playing king f7 and marching the king over here to make some progress. I mean, that's probably one idea that black definitely has. I mean, he just played king d3. I mean, it's pretty much all the same. It's just a hard position to defend, but maybe king f3 is better because it doesn't allow the king to directly infiltrate here. As we see in the game, king g5, rook a6, hoping for last minute activity, rook e1, relying on this. If rook takes d6, then we have this check picking up the rook. So he can do that. He'd attack the rook first, rook e6 defending the pawn, rook b6, king g4. I mean, this is terminal for white. d4 takes, rook takes, king f3, f2 is dropping, king d1, f4 further advancing before making any progress. You can see rook e4 defending this pawn, and rook d4 pretty much winning the game for black. I mean, rook d4, rook e4. This is a lost rook endgame since black just takes and promotes really. Rook d2 to defend the pawn. d5. Black is making further progress. White has no play whatsoever. And after rook a2, king g2, White actually resigned the game. Probably because f3 comes in. I mean, he just can push the d pawn. He can probably just put this rook on e2 eventually, or probably put the king over here, f3. So let's say if white makes a wasting move, right? Just f3, another wasting move here, and now rook e2, taking up the f2 pawn. White wins. I mean black wins. So I mean overall pretty depressing loss, and it's not really clear where Nakamura went wrong. Probably around here he's going wrong. I'm not really sure, but every move looked kind of reasonable to me. And that's the thing I don't like about the Berlin Wall. I mean, the play is just so complex, and it's nothing that straightforward. And there's a lot of subtleties that the player who knows more about the opening will definitely have the advantage with. This is definitely an opening you can prepare and just try to outplay your opponent in, if you're interested in playing this kind of line. Anyways, guys, I hope you liked the video. Thanks for watching. This is Nakamura losing yet again against Topalov, who I think is on an even score right now, and Nakamura is out of 2 out of 8 or something really terrible. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching.